According to authorities, an innocent 5-year-old boy was being held prisoner in a tiny closet under the stairs, allegedly terrorized at the hands of his very own father and stepmother. When you ultimately recover the child, what did he look like?
He had bumps, bruises, cuts on his head. Never seen anything like it in my career, and just horrific.
When this child was taken to the hospital, it's my understanding that he weighed 29 pounds.
Oh yeah, it's something no child should ever have to endure. They had an extra little room inside of the room in the closet, and it was just a small little cubby hole.
What the 16-year-old was saying is that Jordan actually had to stay in that room.
Back in here.
Right.
Has this room been painted since the allegations have been made? Because it's still masked off. What do you think when you look at this?
I think that those people are monsters.
Cops found out about this horror because the boy's courageous 16-year-old stepbrother had enough and got into a fight with his stepfather over the abuse of this little boy.
I was about 14 when Jordan came and lived with us. Jordan was about 3 years old. He was just a outgoing, happy kid.
He was always playing and laughing, and he was my little buddy.
Everybody got along fine. Over time, things started getting more stressful. Brad was definitely the main abuser. He would do things like smack him on the back of his head.
One time, I had heard yelling and stuff going on downstairs, louder than usual. I heard Brad go into the room where Jordan was kept, and then I heard a taser go off. I heard screaming.
I heard Jordan yelling, "Stop, don't do that." Previously, Brad had threatened to tase me. My mom would step in and she would question what Brad was doing, but she kind of stopped. She said it wasn't her kid and she didn't have a say in it.
Well, thank you three for being here. I really appreciate this, because every show that we do, every conversation we have, is really a teaching tool and a cautionary tale for other families. And sadly, every situation doesn't have heroes like you guys. And I know you don't like being called heroes, but you did what had to be done. How many kids were in the house at the time?
There were 7.
There were 6 there, and then when he was added, he was the 7th child in the home?
There was a lot of us.
So at the time, what was he like, and how was he treated when he first came in?
Brad brought Jordan there, and it was just like having a stepbrother, you know. He was treated like all of our other siblings at the beginning. I mean, there's nothing abnormal about it.
Did he sleep just like all the other kids in a bed at all?
Our brother, who was about the same age as him, they set up two toddler beds right next to each other in like the den area, and they pretty much like shared a room down there.
Okay, was he a difficult child or a stressful child?
He was just as stressful as any typical 3-4-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
He was a handful, but
he was just as stressful as our other brother was, who was the same age. So.
Right. So he wasn't like an outlier in some way where he was different from everybody else.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. So how did Bradley treat you three?
When he first moved in, we got along pretty good. He, being new to the picture, of course, he's gonna kind of be on his, I guess, best behavior, so to speak. But as time moved on, I guess it slowly, it became worse.
And when you say it became worse, how did it become worse? And it was towards all of you, any one of you, towards Jordan?
He began to have like angry outbursts, and my mom and Brad started arguing a lot more, and he just kind of gave up.
When you say he gave up, what do you mean?
He first addressed us and said, things were going to be different and with him, and he was going to try to clean the house and help us out and be the dad. And then over time, my mom is in charge of the house, and so I guess to say, like, he really wasn't allowed to step into that role.
Something in him switched up, and he just all of a sudden became like, no, I can't be nice to you anymore. I was like, you can't be nice to me anymore. What do you mean? And he was like, well, your mom put it in line like this. I can either be your friend or I can be your parent.
What did you say to yourself when an adult says that to you?
I was like shocked, like, what do you mean? Like, and he wouldn't like elaborate on it. He explained just like he did. And so I was left with just confusion.
Who ran the household?
Our mom.
The day that I found Jordan in the closet, I had just gotten off work. Brad and I had already gotten into a heated argument.
And it just escalated very quickly. And we saw an opportunity to let him out. And I was scared. I didn't know what was gonna happen. But Cody was like, no, I'm gonna do it. So he opened the closet door.
The best way I could describe Jordan when he was a human skeleton, way underweight. He had gash or something on the back of his head. He had bruises all over him. He was like discolored and just, it was awful.
He looked zombie-like. He was foaming from his mouth a little bit, and he was sitting in a diaper in fetal position.
He was skin and bone, and when I held him, I didn't even feel like I was holding anything. He was so light, and his cheeks were sunk in.
I had never seen anything like that before. This was the worst shape that I had ever seen Jordan the whole time that he had been living with us.
Cody came sprinting out of the room, and he speared Brad into the wall, and they started fighting.
My first reaction was really just to make as much noise as possible. Went outside, was yelling at the top of my lungs. I was gonna find a reason for somebody to come into the house and get some kind of help.
I think that if we didn't open the door, he would have potentially died, but I'm glad that we didn't have to find out.
Take me through the moment that you as a child made the decision to take on a full-grown violent man on behalf of this stepbrother, because I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I may get my ass whipped, but enough's enough, and now we're just going to throw down here because this is stopping now some way or another. What went through your head at that moment?
I mean, my first reaction when I really, had that gut feeling when it started adding up and the way he was treating him wasn't right, it was just my initial reaction.
And before the police came, your mother took Jordan and fled.
She left the three of us there with Brad when she left.
Then she came back and got you?
Right.
And she took you to a motel where they were staying.
Yes.
And what happened in that motel?
Or Jordan said he was hungry. And my mom turned around, she said, oh, you hungry? She was like, you want some pizza? And he was like, yeah. So we went and picked up like 2 or 3 like large pizzas. She told Jordan he could eat as much of the pizza as he wanted.
So what was her point in getting the pizzas and feeding him at that point?
I guess she was just trying to like show that she was trying to feed him.
When Dr. Phil came to see the house, it was absolutely staged.
It definitely completely looked like something that you would see on a home makeover show.
So the 2 boys slept in here.
Right.
There was no way that she kept the house that clean and made everybody's beds all the time.
Has this room been painted since the allegations have been made? Because it's still masked off. It looks awfully pristine if 2 little boys lived in here.
If it has not, I don't know anything about it.
The wall upstairs was in the process of being built. It was not painted. There was nothing in there was ever there before.
You're saying nobody went in and staged that house for our cameras to walk through?
No, I have pictures of the house from March 11th, and it looks exactly like that.
My mom and Brad definitely tried to skew people's view of the way that the house looked at the time.
You know there was paint rollers and pans and everything, brushes and everything just outside the back door.
He started painting it in November or December, and I think it was just finished in February. The tape was still on there because he's lazy. That's why the paint rollers were in the backyard.
When I look at this house that's so pristine,
And you're telling me I was so overwhelmed, I didn't notice this emaciated child walking through my house. It was just complete, utter chaos. This just got lost in the mix, and I'm looking at this house and I'm going, really? Really?
This is the closet.
Okay.
And then if you go back here,
Let me help you with it. How long have these clothes been?
they stay here. But back here, if you move all of the stuff, which is why it's just ridiculous that the 16-year-old says that this is where he stayed, there's baby clothes and baby items. What the 16-year-old was saying is that Jordan actually had to stay in that room.
Back in here.
Right. And as you can see, not possible.
So for her to get to her 1-year-old's stuff, she went under a solid row of clothes, got down on her knees, opened this, and got stuff up for a
When you
1-year-old?
have 6 kids, you do what you can.
So Tammy's position that this child was never kept in this closet?
Never kept in the closet.
Never punished by being put in this closet?
Never punished by being put in the
Was
closet.
never in here, never in this cubbyhole crawl space.
It didn't happen.
What do you see when you look at that closet the way it's shown here?
Did not look like that at all. There was nothing in there. I mean, other than nails and wiring, and I mean, it looked a lot worse than that was.
What she was telling me is that if she needed something for that child, that she crawled under all of those clothes in the outer closet, opened that door, reached in there, pulled open those drawers, crawled backwards back out of there, got up and put that on the child. And I said, you telling me that's what she does every day? She said, well, when you got too many kids, you do what you have to do.
That part right there
Yeah.
never happened.
No.
This right here,
That's-
that's just absolutely staged.
That's completely made up. How it looks in the cubby hole,
right.
everything in there was added later on.
Okay, that was put in for our cameras, our benefit.
Yeah.
I've often said a non-credible denial can be much more damning than an admission. So we're in a staged house. It's, as they always say, the cover-up's worse than the crime. And so now 28 years in prison. How did you decide that you were going to speak out about this and say the right thing?
It was still, of course, it was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, but it's just what was the right thing to do,
Do you have any regrets?
No.
How about you?
No.
How about you, Dylan?
Not at all.
Have you talked to your mother since the trial, and have you talked to her since she was sentenced just recently?
No.
No.
Do you have any desire to talk to her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to have a relationship with her again. I haven't seen her since I was like 16, and I don't know how that would work because of the fact that she can't accept what happened.
What would you say to her?
I guess just why, really? I mean, I think that's kind of the question everybody wants to know, is what was going through your head when it was happening, if anything was.
Now, Cody, Allie, and Dylan say they recently reunited with Jordan at a birthday party and that he is healthy, happy, and thriving. So you guys saw him and he looked good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good seeing him like that. After everything that had happened, he had definitely put on a lot more weight. He was happy.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We walked in there and he just acted like nothing changed. But I mean, he was playing video games and he was happy and he was like running around outside and he looked like a little boy, and it was the most amazing thing.
Well, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.